Good evening, and I'd like to call our Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 Piqua City Commission meeting to order. Let us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have our roll call, please?
Mayor Hines.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Grissom.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Vogt.
Here.
Okay, thank you. And the next thing on our docket, our agenda tonight, is our Government Academy graduates. I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Yes, we recently completed our 10-week academy with 16 participants, and we had a great 10 weeks, and it was very enjoyable. And I think those that attended it learned a lot during that time period. And tonight, we wanted to present them with a certificate, so I'm going to ask Brittany to come forward with the certificates. And as I call your name, if you would just come up and receive your certificate. And I think after you receive everyone has received their certificate, we're going to get pictures out in the lobby. Okay, very good. So tonight, we're recognizing those 16 participants. The first one, Jean Collier. Is Jean here?
Yeah.
We may have a lot missing, but we'll. Stephanie Davey. Wayne Davey. Dave Fishbach. Abby Gary. Joseph Gregory. Chris Grissom. You can here, so.
Not going out in the hall. That's okay.
Bethany Harp.
Not a clap.
Roger Hartley. Roger's not here, but Roger has attended every single government academy since we started.
That's awesome.
He's going to start giving them.
He's qualified now. Eddie Harvey. Amy Howard. Jack Pleasant. Jonathan Roman. David Roth. Linda Roth. And Natalie Young. We appreciate all these citizens taking time to, for 10 weeks, to spend 2 or 3 hours each week learning about local government, and it takes quite a bit of effort, so we want to extend our thanks and appreciation to you doing that. So thank you very much.
I do want to remind all of our citizens that this Government Academy is open to everyone. I did this quite a few years ago, long before I ever anticipated running for commissioner here in our city. It's a great way to get an idea of how our city runs, and also to get an idea of what happens in each department. So congratulations to all of our graduates of our most recent Government Academy. Now we will move to our consent agenda.
One item tonight is the approval of the minutes from the October 15th, 2019 regular Piqua City Commission meeting.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes. And now we move to new business. The first thing on our new business is ordinance number 7-19. This is a first reading.
An ordinance to make appropriations for the city of Piqua, Ohio for the year 2020.
Ms. Holtzapfel will provide the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening. We are required each year to present and pass an annual appropriation. This is for the year 2020, and it needs to be passed by the end of this year. This is the first reading of 3 readings that the commission will receive the ordinance, with the commission reviewing the department budgets on Thursday, November 21st.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from our commissioners on this ordinance? Any questions or comments from the public on this ordinance? Okay, if not, this will stand as our first reading of ordinance number 7-19. And now we move to ordinance number 8-19. This is also a first reading.
An ordinance repealing existing Chapter 33.04 and 33.08 and enacting a new Chapter 33.04 and 33.08 of the Piqua Code relating to employee vacation and employee insurance.
Ms. Bogan will provide the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This ordinance is before you to reflect annual routine updates required in Chapter 33. As Mayor Hines indicated, this is the first reading of 3.
Thank you.
Now, this here is going to take effect January 1.
Correct?
Will we have enough time for the 3 readings, or should we waive the 3 reading rule? It's a done deal.
We've got 2 more meetings
so-
in December.
Okay.
Yep, so we're
fine.
good. Any other questions or comments from the commission on this ordinance? Any questions or comments from the public on this ordinance? If not, this will stand as our first reading of ordinance number 8-19. And now we move to resolution number R-87-19.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application for federal FAST Act funds through the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Ms. Havener will provide the staff report.
Thank you. This legislation would allow for the city to apply for funding for 2 separate projects through the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. The first project being the Looney Road resurfacing project. This project would encompass the resurfacing of Looney Road from County Road 25A south to Patrizio Place. And the second project would be the construction of a roundabout at the intersection of County Road 25A and Looney Road. Again, this is just to apply for the grants. We have no way of knowing if we will be successful in getting the funding. However, if we are successful, the money for the resurfacing of Looney Road would be available in state fiscal year 2022. And the money would be available for the County Road 25A Looney Road roundabout project in state fiscal year 2025.
Okay, thank you. So, as Ms. Havener said, this is just to apply for this money at this point, to put the application.
Yes, we have to get into a funding queue. Sometimes that funding queue is as many as 6 years away.
Wow, okay. All right, any other questions or comments from the commission on this resolution?
Isn't that intersection fairly new?
We did some work out there previously with the county and the state. I think the traffic signal's still the same as it was. So I think the question right now is we really believe that's going to be a lot of growth out there in the next few years. And with the growth of the Edison State and Career Center and the schools, worried about the safety of that also in the future. So that's the reason of selecting that particular site to move forward on in the future.
Is there any issues at that intersection right now?
Well, it's becoming more and more difficult, the more traffic. I know we've had some accidents out there. I wouldn't put it in a great concern at this point, but I think we're more anticipating the growth that we see in 6 years from now, and making it, trying to look ahead to make sure we have funding. There's no guarantee that we're going to get the funding. And then in 6 years, if the funding is approved, the commission could decide not to do it in the future. So we have to get into the queue to have any possibility of
My only concern is that the citizens have a lot of input, a lot. So speak up. I want you guys' input on something like this. So other than that, I mean, my opinion is that there is growth out there. There's new housing going out there. There's a high school with 1,200 kids or so. And there's residences out there, Edison State, UVCC, so there's a lot of traffic. So if it could help slow down people and avoid accidents, I'm okay, but I want to hear what citizens have to say about it.
Well, and I would say that I drive that road every day as I take my son to school, and soon he will be driving it without me, which is a little scary in itself. But especially in the morning, it does get clogged up, and just thinking about how the roundabout by the school board building does move that traffic along. I could see some benefits of that. But obviously, this is down the road. We're just applying for it at this point, so.
I'm on the executive board of the Miami Valley Regional Planning. I'm on the executive board and the other, both boards down there. And this money has to be applied for by everybody in the 3-4 county area, and it's just up for grabs. And they go through this and check and see what we've done with the past money we got, and we've always done good, but we might not get this. And on another note, you could get back in the minutes, I was always anti-roundabout. I thought they were useless. I said to myself, and I said publicly, I'm going to have to find a new way to Fletcher. Okay, the roundabout's up. I was so surprised. There's plenty of room out there. I've seen trucks go through there. There's plenty of room. It works fine. The only thing I don't like is the amount of signs around. But it's a plus for us. I eat my words, okay? If you use them and go out there much, it's much faster. The only problem is that people's going to have to school themselves and learn about it. But it is fast. It is a good deal. And if the state wants to pay for the biggest part of it, I say, let's go for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the commissioners?
Yeah, how much will this cost total?
Don't know yet.
Amy, you've got the figures there?
Yeah, right now, the estimate, including design and right-of-way and environmental, is about 1.63 million. We would go for 70% of that in federal funds, which would leave a local share of about 700,000 of design, construction, and environmental. However, we will be applying for Ohio Public Works Commission funds. Typically, we can receive up to about 500,000 in those funds as well, if we're successful.
And again, I should say that a lot depends on being able to get the funding
Yeah.
to be able to do the project.
Okay. Any public comment on this resolution?
Yeah, my name is Bill Jocko. I live at 607 North Sunset Drive. I live in the 5th Ward. And I have several news feeds, and I have about 3,000 people total on my news feeds. And I floated this roundabout thing on my social media news feeds the other day, and I was stunned that it was almost 100% of people against it. And I'm a little bit in a quandary over it because I strongly support it because I have driven a lot in the past, and you get out of state and they're everywhere, and in my opinion, they're much safer, much quicker. They save your brakes, they save on gas, and I think there's a million reasons to, aside from safety, why they're a great thing. However, putting me at odds with the several thousand people that I communicate with was sort of a quandary for me. So I thought I would just share with you some of the biggest objections. And the biggest objection I got was the fact that people really don't care about much other than how much is it going to cost Piqua. So at the end of the day, what people want to know is they don't care about the federal funding, they don't care about the state, they don't care about the grants, how much is the city of Piqua going to pay. And when it comes to money coming out of anything other than economic development and money for economic development to bring better jobs to Piqua, I think I can overwhelmingly say that, I would say that a majority of people in Piqua would be against it. So my question to you is, what are you projecting to be the actual cost for the taxpayers of Piqua, the city's portion of it?
I think right now we're looking at about 200,000, Amy? Yeah, about 200,000.
Well, I reduced it to 200,000, just deducing what I had read in your proposal, and I think you guys need to spend more time selling it to the city of Piqua. Like I said, I'm in favor for it. I like it. And before I sit down, I just want to say quickly, did you guys scuttle the Main Street barricades?
No.
Okay, well, let me just quickly say, I know it's sort of related, is that I lived on Main Street for many years. I probably spent more time in the Main Street bars than any of you. I know Main Street more than any of you, and it's a danger zone. Is that actually a pedsing, a pedestrian crossing there?
It's supposed to be.
If it is, it's the most dangerous pedsing I've ever seen. You know, I raised a family on Main Street. I had kids who graduate from high school on Main Street, and it's dangerous. I don't, you know, you got Piqua concrete driving big trucks up and down like it's a speed zone. I hope you guys do something with that, so I would support that myself.
I think we have done some study with some things
It's just, it hasn't been installed yet, but it
Yeah.
will be.
to kind of slow that traffic down because it was brought up in one of our previous meetings, so. And I think many people can agree that the pedestrian crossing on Main Street is a little dicey at times, so.
Ken Black, talking for my father. He lives at 9200 North County Road 25A, right on the intersection, northwest corner of Looney and 25A. He had some questions. One of his questions was, at what point in time do they plan on purchasing the land for this?
Well, no funding would be available until 2025, so it'll be a while before anything happens on the project.
And do you have a basic idea on what the diameter of this thing's going to be and how it's going to lay out? Do you
Not
have anything like
specifically,
that?
no.
So you don't even have the, what?
We haven't done any design work yet, so.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I wanted.
And at this point, again, this is just going to get the funding. If we get the funding, obviously 2025, then that design work will be happening at that point, so.
Yeah, I'd like to say one more thing. If you go on 161 to Columbus, the roundabouts at 161 and 33 are horrible. They had no study in that at all when we did our roundabout out here. I was against it, but we pressed and pressed and pressed for it to be big enough and understand enough for a semi to get through with a trailer on. And they did due diligence on that roundabout, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised with it. And if we do the one on, of course, I won't even be here then, the one at Looney Road and 25A, if they spend as much time on the design that they did the other, it will be a nice addition. And people will have to realize that if we had to pay for that, there'd be a lot of money the state and the federal government and everything donates to this. And maybe in 5 years, our economic development and our tax base will be bigger. And we just have to look at it then. So that's all I have to say about it. And I'm a negative guy. You know, I'm Mr. No Vote. That's all I have.
Well, and I think, again, this is something in the future, we've got about 5 years out looking at this, but this is just applying for the funding. So just to make sure everybody's aware of that. So if there's no other comments, do we have a motion on this resolution?
So move.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the resolution passes.
You taking my place?
And now we move to resolution number R-88-19.
A resolution authorizing transfer of liquor permit.
Mr. Smeezing will provide the staff report.
Thank you and good evening. The item that you have before you comes to us by way of a request that we received from representation of Mr. Burrito. Mr. Burrito is the operator of the Hothead Burrito store located at 1567 Covington Avenue in Piqua. And they desire to transfer a D1 liquor license from a Cincinnati store that's in their portfolio of store locations that is being closed. They'd like to transfer the liquor permit from that location to the Piqua location using the Economic Development Transfer, also known as TREX, provision of the Ohio Revised Code. This would allow them to be able to serve beer and alcohol. They're also pursuing a D1 or a D2 and a D3 license, and this would offer provide similar product offerings as what they have available at other stores. I believe we have a representative here from Mr. Burrito, if you have any questions. But again, what they're proposing is, in essence, using the Ohio Revised Code mechanisms that are made available to be able to transfer that D1 license from the Cincinnati location.
And Chris, that requires commission action to do that, right?
Under this process, it requires the city commission acknowledge that they'd be transferring a liquor license simply because, the reason it's necessary is because we're above our quota on D1 licenses.
Because I thought I thought one of those came before us.
This is so we talked previously about the downtown revitalization
Right.
district. So that's a defined area within the downtown that creates an additional allowance of licenses. This is outside of that defined area, so this is a different provision that already exists in the ORC that anyone with a ownership interest in a license can utilize it if they have the circumstances that justify it.
I thought we had signed something for that.
You may have seen the D2 and D3 request already, because we're not above our quota, so that
Right.
would be the typical process that you would
And
normally
that was for
experience.
the beer and wine. This is for the liquor.
2 and 3 are for the wine and the liquor. The D1 is for beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this one is for
The D1,
D1. Oh, this is for the beer.
yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, because I was confused because I knew we had seen,
Yeah.
we saw some other ones come before us, so, okay. Any other questions from the commission?
Since this is a transfer, will that take away from any licenses that are currently available to us?
Nope. It essentially adds one to
Okay.
the inventory that we have.
Okay. Do you want to speak, or?
Oh, I just would, sure, please.
I was going to say, if you, I don't know if you want, you're here, you might as well.
My name's Ray Wiley. I'm the owner of that, the Hot Head Burritos there and some other stores. And basically, we have no desire to be a bar, but it is nice. We've noticed in other stores that people on a Friday night come in, have a beer and a burrito, and it's just added a nice little element to a number of our stores. And so that's what we're pursuing to do. We'd like your approval.
All right,
All
thank
right?
you.
Thanks.
Anything else from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public on this resolution? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. And now we move to resolution number R-89-19.
A resolution to levy assessments to pay for the cost of nuisance abatements.
Ms. Welker will provide the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening. The city abates nuisance conditions on properties throughout the year for things such as high grass and weeds, trimming bushes and trees, picking up trash, those types of things. This occurs when the property owner is notified that there's a violation of a city code. They're given a time frame to comply with that code and correct the situation. If they fail to do so, the city hires contractors to abate that situation. The property owner then receives a billing for the cost of doing that service. If they fail to pay that bill, it appears before you as a potential lien on the property taxes. So this is the next quarterly installment of those assessments, which gives not only the property owner, but any current or previous property owner notice that that lien will occur.
Okay. Does this seem shorter than it typically is?
Right, so we've moved to a quarterly assessment, just trying to give people more notice. And what we do is we post these quarterly notices on our website, so anyone looking at a property can look it up. But the county will only assess it still once a year, which occurs in September.
Right. And I can remember we had some citizens bring that to our attention. If you're going to purchase property and you don't realize that these assessments are on the property, you would be then responsible for these assessments. So it's helpful to look and to see that. That's why we put this report out on a quarterly basis.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission on this resolution? Any questions or comments from the public on this resolution?
Does this come under code enforcement, or is this something separate from code enforcement?
This is nuisance applied by the health department.
So is it related to code enforcement? So in other words, if somebody's grass is too long, then you're going to send somebody out?
Yes.
Well, I'd like just to make a quick comment on that. And I have made a public request for information from Troy just to see how many code enforcement issues they deal with. And I know that in the last 3 years, we've had 600. And I think of those 600, I think it's fair to say that a very small portion of those are slumlords. And I think we've done a good job at making people very aware that we have some slumlords in this town, and I happen to know him, and his grandson works for me, and I think I think there's a lot of remorse there, and I think they feel bad that they're in this situation, but I'm not here to speak for them. But what I do want to say about code enforcement is about 15 or 20 years ago, I was involved in a wrongful death lawsuit, and I lost everything I had. I had to start all over, and I made a deal with the bank that I moved my family and business above 322 North Main Street on the 4th floor, and I renovated that, which Chris, he remarked it the other day, was part of the economic development now. I made it so you could live up there because I was forced to. And at that time, I was broke. I made a deal with the bank. They were nice enough to let me stay in that building. And then the city of Piqua found out I was living up there, and I was not getting along with Lorna at that point. And so I had other issues with Lorna in the downtown street, and they ganged up on me. And I probably deserved it, but regardless, they ganged up on me, much the way that I think you're ganging up on some of the slumlords in town, and they probably deserve it like I probably deserved it. But my point to you is this, is that at that point I was broke. I had a family of four small kids, my wife. That was the only place for me to go. It was the only place that I could do, and this room was actually packed with people from the city, the health department trying to throw me out. And it was just an amazing thing. And this was an appeals committee. So I went to this appeals committee, and I made my appeal, just like I'm doing to you now. And I don't know who she was. She was just a kindly lady who had children like I did. She put a stop to the eviction, and she stood up and she spoke in our favor and said, Mr. Jacqua, we just want you to be safe and your family to be safe. And so I'm in favor of giving you an extension to get it and squared around, and I did. And it took me a while, but I did. But what I'm saying to you is that you don't have any appeals provision now for when you enforce these codes on people. You should have an appeals board somewhere where somebody like myself or somebody in dire, not the slumlords, but other people that can come and make an appeal to an appeals committee. Hey, maybe there's some extenuating circumstance. You got 600 of them here. I hear about them all the time. People contact me about your code enforcement, and I think there's problems with it. I think there's things you guys don't know about, and that's another story. But I wish that you would think about an appeals committee where somebody can come and make their appeal the same way I did years ago. That really was a blessing to me and my family. Thanks.
Just to answer your question, I think you can go before the Board of Zoning Appeals now, if you want to appeal something like that.
So today there is an appeals board that's.
Yeah, Board of Zoning Appeals, yes.
And I will say that I know that Mr. Morrison I have spoken to people who have been who he has visited, and he has been willing to work with them in some of those dire situations. So I think there have been times that that's been able to happen, so.
So there is a process in place right now?
Yeah, there is a process in place, yes, there is.
And just to answer your question regarding the number of code enforcement violations that have been sent out, I think you had requested the information from the city, and I think we shared that. For the past 3 years, in 2017 was like 300 and some violations, and 150 close to it for 17 and 18. I know the city of Troy issues over 700 a year. So, I mean.
Well, I would like to see that.
Yeah,
I think that's worthwhile knowing.
You can ask them for it, but I know that figure from.
I think there's things that you guys should be made aware of. Like I was getting along. I have a violation right now, and I was getting along pretty well with your code enforcer guy. And a couple of weeks ago, he called and said, "Hey, well, you've made a lot of progress, and you're doing really well. Can you get with me here in the next couple of weeks, or by the end of the month, and to let me know just what your future plans are?" And I said, you can call me or I'll call you. But yeah, I mean, and I'm really excited about fixing up that corner for a lot of reasons. And then last week, Mr. Patrizio sends me a letter, gives me 5 days to submit my plan, or else he's going to take me to the common pleas court. I mean, excuse me, I mean, I'm a citizen. I'm not a subject. I'm not a slave. I don't think you treat people that way. I don't think you send them a letter stating that if you don't, straighten up and fly right and answer my questions now, I'm going to take you to court. I just think that's terrible. And I think a lot of that goes on that you guys don't know about.
So would it make sense in those situations, we have things in place that the zoning board of appeals would be the place to?
Well, that's who, if you question the violation, that's where you'd go to.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think you
Okay.
should make that I think you should make people aware of that. I think a lot of people don't know that they can appeal, so.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to open my big mouth again. How can you appeal not mowing your grass? And that's what most of the complaints, the charges are. Tall grass, not mowing your grass.
And trash, and not picking up your trash.
Well, I had one gentleman. He got a notice because he was a landlord. They're going to nail him to the cross because the grass wasn't mowed at that place. He goes to the house. The grass was knee-high. He says to this lady living there, I bought you a lawnmower. I give you a lawnmower to cut your grass. She says, I know it, but my husband sold it. So how can you appeal something like that?
Well, I think the
This is what
concern-
goes on. You hear all this stuff, but nobody knows a lot of this stuff goes on. And I got that from a landlord.
Go ahead, Chris.
Commissioner
And
Grissom?
I don't think that people are saying that those situations don't happen. I think that appeal was more towards not being able to pay for that at that time, or is a person not able to cut their grass due to physical limitations and not able to afford, they're on a strict income or some of those, like, is there an appeal or something we could do to help support those people?
Yeah,
in those
extenuating
situations?
circumstances,
Yeah,
sure.
and somebody that just doesn't want to do it and doesn't want to pay, that's a
Different.
whole different circumstance.
Okay.
Agreed.
Kevin Jenkins, 619 North Downing Street. I'm a landlord. I'm not a slumlord. Okay, so anybody says anything about slumlord, I don't take that to heart. As far as mowing grass, I'm the one that's going to get cited, not my tenants. Okay? Why aren't they responsible for it? And you want to cite the landlord, not the tenant. When I can go over there and mow the grass, 3 weeks later, it ain't mowed again. Why does it come back on landlord? Because it's my property?
That's your property.
Yeah.
And I can understand your concern, but I would think that would be an agreement that you'd have set up with the individuals,
Right.
because you could have it where you are responsible for mowing the grass or where they are, and if they don't, then, is that in your contracts and what kind of penalty would be there? I know what you're saying, though,
Yeah, I know.
because it's not your
You
fault.
can put in the contract all you want.
I know.
But that grounds for eviction.
Well, and I think that's just,
I go to my properties and I go by them all the time. And if I see trash out there, I'll stop and pick it up. I can say something to them, okay, we'll do it. Well, when somebody moves in your property, they promise you the world.
Sure. But ultimately, you're responsible for what goes on at your property because you own it.
right.
Well, I ain't responsible for what goes on inside my property.
Nope, but
Well,
the
I
trash and all that
understand
stuff,
I understand that.
ultimately, you gotta be.
But
I mean,
what I'm saying is you have to babysit them.
yeah,
That's plain and simple.
yeah.
There's no responsibility to tenants no more. It all falls back on the landlord.
The ultimate power of eviction is
Well,
your
yeah, well,
last
evictions
resort.
don't matter because the next person's gonna do the same thing maybe.
You gotta scrutinize
I
who you
know,
put in
well,
there,
I
though,
know,
you
I
know
know.
that.
You can screen them all you want.
I know.
It doesn't work that way. I've been doing it for 36 years.
You have.
So I could tell you guys some horror stories.
Yes, you could.
All right. Anything else?
Bob Huback, 921 Camp Street. Bear with me because I'm fired up. I'll follow up with all of these here. You live by one of these owners of these houses, and you deal with spending over $1,000 because cockroaches are coming to your yard, getting ready to invade your house, and I had to go to Judy Terry to get something done because the health department would not do it, said they're not allowed. The slum house, and that's exactly what it is, a slum house. The place right now, the people left all their garbage, trash that I've lived with for 5 years with these people. laying everywhere. It was carted into a trailer, and now the house is ready to rent out again. Windows falling out. I went out there and picked up glass and frames from the dump, but the house is still available. Metropolitan is a joke. Plain and simple, it's a joke. People are lazy because the government makes them lazy. They pay their rent. The people that live there, they paid $100 rent. I sure wish I only had to pay $100 to live somewhere. They got more than one people living there. So I'm fired up, and they are slumlords. Plain and simple, slumlords.
Well, and I think I can't tell you, and Russ, you can come on up as I'm talking. I know you've been trying to get up. But I cannot tell you how many calls I get from people who take care of their property and have somebody next door who does not. And they deal with a variety of things because of that. So and that's one of the reasons why we have code enforcement, and that's one of the reasons why we have these nuisance abatements, is to get these things taken care of the best we can. I know. And it's frustrating when you take good care of your property and the person next door does not.
Yep.
So,
Russ Fashioner, 801 Forest Avenue. I just want to clarify in what's been talked about at the podium tonight. This resolution, we're at resolution R89-19, I think. It's assessments on nuisance abatements. This is the health department, correct?
Correct.
A lot of people have been up here at the podium talking about nuisance abatement in general. I'd like to thank the health department
Thank you.
for getting trash cans for the city of Piqua that's cleaning the town up. I still see some trash piled up here and there. The health department's trying to do their job. I get tired of going by and seeing move-outs, as this gentleman just said.
Yep.
The health department's trying. But this ordinance is for the tall grass and
Trash.
Amy, correct me, that
Trash.
and to tell the citizens that when you see one of these move-outs, the city of Piqua doesn't go pick that up when she calls somebody, and then it gets picked up, it gets put on those people's taxes, and that's how all this is getting paid. This is what you guys are voting on, is about
Right.
the trash, the tall grasses, not the peeling paint and all that,
Yeah.
just to clarify that for those people at home watching.
well, and the reality is
Thank
there's
you.
consequences. And that's exactly what it is. There are
Again, this
is the
consequences if you
consequence.
do not mow your grass and you do not pick up your trash, and
That's-
that's what this is.
In the house I grew up in and take care of mine, I just wanted to come up and make sure people understood
Right.
that the health department's trying to clean up the town and the trash cans and all, and say thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, do we have a motion on this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. And now we move to resolution number R-90-19.
A resolution to replat part of in-lot 7682 east of Bear Run and west of Deerwood Drive.
Tonight is the first presentation by our city planner, Kirsten French. So, Ms. French.
Am I on? Awesome, okay. All right, in this case, the applicant desires to replat a portion of Lot 7682 to create lots that will be added on to the adjacent lots to the east. This replat is a sliver that adds up to 1/10 of an acre, and this is going to be done for administrative ease for the current owner.
And I have to say, this is in my ward, and I live in this neighborhood, and I would say that this has been how it has been dealt with from as long as I've been here. So I think this is just almost like cleaning things up and just trying to make them the way they should be. So obviously, do we have any neighbors here from Deerfield that are in this section? Yeah. So any other questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public on this resolution? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. And now we move to our final resolution, resolution number R-91-19.
A resolution to replat part of in-lot 7682, part of Deerfield subdivision, section 4, and vacated street area.
Ms. French.
This since these are both 7682, I included a graphic to point to which part of 7682 that this is happening on. This is a replat to gather up some parcels to prepare them for conveyance to a new owner.
So this is basically the undeveloped section of Deerfield, correct?
Yes.
And just taking it back to what it has been existed as, so, okay. Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the public on this resolution? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of resolution number R-91-19, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the resolution passes. And now we move to our public comment portion of the meeting.
Hey, everyone. It's been a while. Bill, you're fired up tonight. That's good. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody who was responsible for the Government Academy. I had a great time. You guys did a great job, especially being with you. I know I've said that before. I won't get too deep into it, but nudist pop-up book, that's all I'm going to say. If you were there, you know, and if not, oh well. So that's right there. One thing I kind of wanted to touch on, and this might sound kind of like a throwback because it's been a while since we've been able to come up here and talk like this. One of the big issues that people feel like we have in this town is there's not enough industry. And Bill, I know last time we were both here together, you made some comments about it, and that's fine. But I feel like maybe there's a point that's being missed when it comes to the industry here in town. I know my opinion on the industry has been changed because I've actually been able to go out there and research and see, yeah, we do have a lot of jobs available. But the point that's kind of being missed here is what kind of jobs do we have available? I know I've worked quite a few of the, I've been in manufacturing since I was 19 years old. I'm 33 now. I've been doing it for a while. And I've worked a couple jobs here in town. One of the first ones I worked here, and this is what, like, again, a point I feel like is being missed. One of the first jobs I worked here in town, I'm not going to put them on blast because it's not important. My very first day, I walk in and there's an OSHA violation on the board. And I'm not really used to seeing them, so of course I start reading it. And the violation was for work gloves that were covered in blood stains that were being reused. And again, this is here in town. And I'm thinking, well, I'm glad I got here now because now they're addressing it and I ain't got to deal with it. Would you like to guess what was on the gloves my very first day? Blood. And again, that's the industry here in town. I didn't work there very long, needless to say. Another issue is a culture in some of these places. A lot of places are attempting to change it. I will give some of them that. But a lot of the culture in some of these places are lacking as well. I was a lead at one specific place here in town for a while, and the breaking point for me was I worked 12-hour swing shifts, so it was like 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off. And as a lead, I would be the only one as long with the management that would do that. And they gave the employees the opportunity to either opt into that shift or opt to keep what they were on a regular 40-hour shift. And unanimously, all the employees decided to stay with the 40-hour shift. The company decided anyway to put the employees on a 12-hour swing shift, even though they gave the employees the opportunity to switch, and they all said, nah, we're good. They said, ah, too bad, we're going to do it anyway. You know, I think you guys ought to talk about, you guys talk with the people that run the industry here in town. Tell them that the culture needs to change. Because if there's the same jobs along on the way out of town to the highway that always have now hiring signs up, you know, and Troy City Councilman actually got on Watch Piqua and commented this, and I thought it was so good. And he made such a good point. If the back door to your industry is larger than the front door, the problem is internally, and it's not the people that are coming to your jobs and work them. It's not. I get so irritated when I hear failed drug tests are the reason why people can't find workers, because you don't need clean urine to get a job anymore. You don't even need urine. You don't even need urine. Anybody who knows what I'm talking about. And you can get it right here in town. A drug screen is not the reason why we have all these open jobs. It's because a lot of these places here in town still have a mindset like they got when the market crashed and they felt like they had all the control, which they did. But that's not the case anymore. Industry's booming up all around us. You know, the industry in this town is available, but it needs a culture change, just like everything else I feel in this town does. And that's not a bad thing. We're at a point where we can make that change. But somebody has to go to these people who are at the top and say, listen, if you want to continue to do what you're doing, you need to change as well. And
you just did. You just went to the people at the top by saying
I
what
mean,
you're saying.
You're right. I'm not even gonna.
And we'll, I have no problem saying it to them as well.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line is, they've got to be willing to change.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the argument of it's your fault, which is ridiculous, or the argument that it's the workers' fault is ridiculous. If nobody's enticing you to stay here, which benefits everyone in tax monies, benefits everyone in jobs and more industry, if there's nothing to keep your attention, why not just go somewhere else that will? And I've been wanting to say that for a while. It's kind of long-winded. I appreciate you listening to me.
No, that's fine.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening?
Yeah, I have a couple issues I want to talk about. So you're saying to me that instead of him sending me a letter telling me that I had 5 days or else he was going to take me to court, that he should have sent me a letter and said, hey, if you'd like to appeal this, you can? Is that what you're saying? So I could have appealed that, but nope, I didn't know that I had an appeal. So when a guy gives you 5 days or you're going to go to court, is that appeal available to you?
Maybe you could tell him, I'm going to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals instead. And see what he
And
says.
I'm not sure the background of
I
the
don't know the
whole.
process.
Well, he
Yeah,
knows, he's sitting right there asking.
Well, we are.
but I'm talking, this isn't the place to have that conversation. We can have that I mean, there is, the Board of Zoning Appeals is the place to go. And I'm not sure what happened up to the point of you getting the letter.
Okay,
And I
well,
don't think that this is the appropriate
Since this
place
is
to
my 5
discuss
minutes,
that.
I'm done with that conversation.
Okay.
I'm going to move on to a couple other conversations. Number one is I'm going to talk about the mayor for a minute. And so I think it's unfortunate that you guys are going to choose a mayor among you on the first day of business of the new year. I think it's very unfair to the citizens of Piqua, and I will go back to my news feed again, is that I brought this mayor subject up, to a couple thousand people, and it's amazing that people that would like to vote for a mayor. And, but I want to say this, is that the Fifth Ward has consistently been the mayor of this town forever. On a rare, Tom Hudson was the only exception that I can think of, and he's actually from the Fifth Ward. And, the Fifth Ward is the richest, most wealthiest ward in the city, and I think it has been gerrymandered that way over the years. And so I think there's actually a lot of division in the Fifth Ward. I think you have this very conservative faction, and you have this liberal faction of the Fifth Ward, and I don't think it's as cohesive as you think, but nevertheless, they stay together, they vote more than all the other wards, and so they control the town. So there's a lot of animosity and division in this town. It's time for a new mayor. It's time to have somebody besides somebody from the Fifth Ward be the mayor. Now, I don't really get along with Chris that well, but I was amazed. I was amazed on my news feed how many people wants Chris to be mayor. And I just, it's not my position to nominate him, but I'm hoping that you will pay attention to what I just said to you. I think there's a lot of support for him, and it's not that I have any great love lost for Chris. So the second thing I want to say about it is that I found out that it's going to take 1,250 petitions for me to get onto the ballot. The petition to change Piqua from a charter to a statutory government, and that's a very high bar. And that's, I think, what do you guys get to run for 250, 300? What's it take to be elected city commissioner? 300? 250?
50.
No,
just
just
50.
Just 50.
Need 50 registered.
And then to do, like they had the recall several years ago, that took 500 signatures. And of course, the city, in our city charter, all the wisdom of the people who wrote that decided that it should be 1,250 signatures to get it on the ballot. And if you're going to change something as dramatic as your form of city government, then I guess that's really fair enough, and it should be that way.
Your 50 signatures, Bill, are from your ward, not citywide, just from your ward that you're responsible for.
Well,
I think that's why it's a lower number, because you haven't got as big a pick.
But I just want to conclude my little quick time by saying several weeks ago I made a post and I said that I think the city commission has a responsibility to participate in this discussion, statutory versus charter, because there's a lot of people that are interested in it. I've never had over 100 shares on anything I've done on social media. I had over 100 people that shared that, and I was stunned. I was stunned at the, I had 2,000 or 3,000 people just, just jumped right on it.
You're on your last minute. I just
Okay.
wanted to let you
And
know.
I appreciate the time, and I hope you will consider that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Good evening. What happened to the announcements agenda? I missed that. My name is Larry Hamilton. I live at 1104 Maplewood Drive. On September 18th of 2018, I came before the Piqua City Commission, and in my initial comments, I acknowledged having been confused about the city's ownership of the canal property adjacent to the property I had purchased at 655 North Main Street, that I had given name to as the Randolph and McCulloch Freedom Struggle Complex. I was making reference to a meeting that had taken place on 9/4/18 with city officials, and I made a reference to a desire on my part to offer some additional insight or explanation, if possible, of my level of confusion with the ownership of the adjacent property at 655 North Main. I have reviewed emails, correspondences, and made recollections of appearances and discussions with realtors representing the interests of sellers. And so I was basically taking responsibility for having been confused in connection with the sale of that property. I suppose that in my confusion, I was listening but hearing something different, or reading but not understanding specifics or distinctions being alluded to. Now, having said that, there was another meeting which took place between myself and city officials just last month on Tuesday, October 29th, that resulted in a communique to city commissioners that was issued, I believe, in misunderstanding and confusion on the part of the city officials. As a prelude to our open dialogue, I wanted to share some comments about the video, The Community Benefit, but was told time did not permit additional subject matter, which I had previously sent to the city officials, and apparently they did not have the time or take the time to watch that video. If the video had been watched or discussed, there would have been little room for confusion on the part of the city officials. But be that as it may, I have decided that going forward, it will be desirable to have a more inclusive, open dialogue with the people directly. And to that end, I have undertaken the effort to secure room reservations at the key sites of Miami County libraries, where I will be offering direct presentations for whosoever is interested in hearing about the property proposal relating to the community benefit presentation. So I have secured Troy Library for December 2nd.
What time?
I'll share those times at a later time. Tip City on December 9th. Piqua tentatively on December 12th. Bradford on December 17th. West Milton on January 9th. And Covington on January 28th. And I will share, there will be basically 3 different topic areas, but primarily I want to promote an understanding or an awareness on the part of the public to that community benefit. That's key. But I also will address some issues relating to the Randolph narrative. And in closing, I would like to also make citizens of Piqua aware that there's a Piqua native that has done me proud as a father in appearing in a commercial That is a Facebook commercial relating to military moms. And I urge you, if you haven't seen that, to make sure, if you see that, the young lady starring in that commercial is my daughter, Erica
Yep.
Hamilton Lubeck. Thank you.
It's a great commercial. Thank you for sharing that, Larry. And do you have a YouTube video of the community benefit?
Yep.
So everybody can search that out and watch that prior to them going to one of these dates, right? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Kuhn, and I do live in the 5th Ward on Park Avenue. I think maybe you get a lot of action in the 5th Ward is because we do volunteer in the 5th Ward quite a bit to do things in our community. But I'm here tonight representing the Friends of the Piqua Parks, and I have some of the committee members with me, Edna Stiffel, Jim Vetter, and Russ Fashner. Don Smith is not able to be here this evening, and of course Bill Vogt is here. He is on our committee, as well as Glenn Devers. We want to give you an update about our wonderful project on the slopes on East Route 36. We're not quite finished, but we wanted to make sure that we told you that what we've been doing for the past 3 years, we've been trying to come up with a plan that we thought we could afford and also that the community would be proud of. So we hired a landscape architect, and then we put out bids to local landscapers, and we chose one, and we decided on Casto Anderson. I'm happy to also report that we were able to raise almost $80,000 from foundations, businesses, and residents. And I myself, having been involved in a lot of fundraisers, know that there were so many people that I have never seen give before, but to give to this project. We started planning September the 1st, and oh my, was that a mistake. As you all recall, we came into a drought that lasted, I don't know how long. And then, not only that, the weather was 80 degrees and 90 degrees, and our plants were choking, and we were all sleepless nights. So we were able, however, to plant 41 trees and almost 1,000 plants and shrubs. And what saved us, first of all, was the city and the wonderful street department and parks department. They came out with water as often as they could. We were so grateful for that. But then we also found one of the fellows who put in the original irrigation system almost 20 years ago. And he came and took a look at the irrigation system and was able to repair it and reopen it. And what a glorious day it was to see all of this water flowing from the top of the slopes down onto our plants. And I'm happy to report that we only lost about 8 to 10 plants. That's just amazing. ODOT could not have been more helpful. The day that we opened the irrigation system, the caveat was, if you change any of your plans, a lot of times you have to go back to ODOT and you have to do a completely new plan. Well, our plants would never have survived. But this ODOT man stood next to me and said, Ruth, you have my verbal okay to go ahead and use the irrigation system. Oh, my word. He did save our life that day. But again, we could not have done this without the support of the city. Gary Huff has been extremely, extremely helpful. And Brian Brookhart, God love him. I do have his cell phone number, and I know he regrets that. But we are moving forward, and we are going to be coming back in the spring to work a little bit more on it, to complete it. So we're not quite finished. And, but all in all, we're very, very proud of our project, and I hope that you are also. It did take a lot of work, but so many people were so gracious and generous to us. And people, I think, foundations gave to us who we never really had even any relationship with or any history that they had given before. But they were so enthused about this that they did help us out. And does anybody else have anything they want to add?
So you have about 1 minute, so 1 minute.
The other thing I want to do before we leave, I want to thank the city and Chris Schweizing for his leadership, because do you know that the awful trailers are being moved out as we speak?
On 66.
Yes. And I saw the man out there. I was going to stop my car and thank him, but I thought, well, no, probably that's not a good idea. But we're so happy, and I know everyone who passes in and out of our community on Route 36, including Karen, is so happy to see some movement out there, as well as the neighbors. When I spoke before about what could we do about this, I had so many calls, or people who saw me commented that they were just so discouraged about this site. But it is just so encouraging to know that something is being done. So thank you to the city, and thank you to Chris. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you
for
very much.
volunteering
Yeah,
and your
appreciate
hard
it.
work.
You guys
Appreciate
do
it.
fabulous work.
I'd like to say one thing.
Yes.
A lot of the people in the city thought that that was the city's responsibility, the trailer park, and it's not. It's in the county. It's
Yep.
not in the city, so it was not the city's responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Wait a minute.
one more.
Oldest last.
About that.
First of all, a couple of thank yous. One to Mr. Fashioner back here, who I believe for years has taken care of a lot that he does not own.
Yeah.
But because it's visible to him, you would think that he treats it as his own. So
Does. He
it
does a
goes,
good job.
that goes noticed by some of us.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to, one other thing is publicly thank John Martin and Bill Vogt for their long years of dedication and service to our electric department. Both have sat for long time on what is a difficult board, because there is nothing we do, as everyone knows, nothing we do is cheap. And it takes some tough decisions, and both Bill and John have been troopers for a long time. In the electric department, we only have meetings when we need to have meetings, which means about every other month we actually have a meeting. And so we have a meeting coming up next week, which might be Bill and John's last appearance at that board. And so I wanted to publicly recognize how much I personally appreciate their input all these years. Thank you, gentlemen, and Russ, too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there is nothing else, we will move to our city manager's report. Oh, was there
Yeah.
one more? Oh, so I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Miles, okay.
There's nobody, we're good? Okay. All right, move to our city manager's report.
Yes, just a couple items tonight. I wanted to go a little bit with what Ruth said and extend thanks to the Miami County Commissioners and staff for forcing the trailers on Route 66 to be moved. That was all instigated by Chris Measing to pull them all together, and they came up with the appropriate requirements. And so it's been a long time coming, but I think that's finally getting done. So we do appreciate the work of the Miami County Commissioners and their departments. For public information, the Miami Valley Center Mall came under new ownership as of yesterday. It's owned now by Cohan Investments. So we're hoping that we'll see some activity out there that may improve the mall, but we hope to be meeting with the owners as soon as possible. And finally, since Joe mentioned it, we will be having a reception prior to the final meeting in December for both Bill and John. So come and enjoy some cake at your party prior to that last meeting. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Lee?
I don't have anything other than at that reception, I hope that Bill shows up on time. No, we want to thank you for your long service on the commission, both of you guys. You made some tough decisions, not been popular, and that's okay, because you're not here to be popular, you're here to make decisions and do what's in the citizens' best interest. I like seeing people out in the crowd as well there. I mean, you guys come up and you ask great questions and you want to get involved, and we need more people doing that. So keep coming, keep attending. Appreciate you. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Grissom.
I kind of want to reiterate what you and Jay said about the Government Academy. I really enjoyed it. Highly encourage anybody else next year to get involved on that. It was a really good experience. Also, in light of the holidays, I know Thanksgiving's coming up here soon, so please enjoy it with your families. You know, be safe, and thank you for everything that you guys do as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Vogt?
Well, I've been in this chair for 16 years. I only took it for 4. Well, here I am, 16 years. I've had good times, I've had bad times. I've kind of looked after my ward. It's a nice ward. Gary could vouch by the notes I send him on things to get done. And I've been treated real nice, and on the other hand, I've never been treated so badly and called so many rotten names in my life. But I am still here. I don't pay any attention to the Facebook. I don't do it. And I understand I've been beat up pretty good, but here I am. And would I do it again? Yes, I would if I wasn't as old. Because it takes some involvement. If you're not involved, if you can't try to do anything to help, you're part of the problem. That's what I look at. And that's just me, I guess. I know a lot of people, and I've done a lot of things. And I'm not after headlines. It's always a phone call. I don't bring much up at meetings. It's always a phone call, and we get it done. And you people that went to the Government Academy sees and learn how this city works, and you can understand how it works and how some things aren't really our business and how some things don't get taken care of. But I've enjoyed it, and I respect all of you, and I've never badmouthed anybody for being negative towards me or at the podium. And nothing at all. Bill Jocko and I had words one time, and I was wrong, and I apologized. And then he apologized to me. So it's just an understanding. We're grown-ups, and that's the way life is. So it's been a good ride for me. And hopefully the city will prosper and grow and be a great place to live still. I'm moving December 18th. I can talk. I'm moving to Florida, okay? So I'll be sitting at my house at the kitchen table listening to the waves break on the beach. That's how close I am. So that's it. Thank you all. Thanks for coming to the meetings. Thanks for speaking your piece. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Martin?
I'm going to keep it simple. Gary, I noticed on Facebook there was some questions about why the post office doesn't have to have handicap accessible ramps or a way in.
Federal building.
Under federal law.
Yeah. The Americans Disabilities Act does not apply to the federal government. It applies to state, local, and private entities, but it does not apply to the federal government. So,
If you call them, they will come and get your mail for you, bring it out to your car.
Yeah, I've heard that you can go around the back and get
Yeah,
your mail.
you
if
call
need
them
to.
and they'll bring it back, bring it out to you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. I have a few things to share. You'll notice the candle and the Unity Pledge that is on the floor. We had a wonderful Unity event back on the 20th of October, had a variety of folks there, a variety of churches were represented, and the desire after that event was to have the candle here for a while and then move to different places around the community. So you'll see it here for a while, and then you'll see it in other places, in the schools and other places in our community. Just some things that have been going on. We had a groundbreaking of Sunrise Treatment Center on October 18th, which is out at the Looney Road roundabout. And that has come along very nicely. You can definitely see it from the highway now. We had an informational meeting for the Zolo Lofts, the Zollinger Building, and the developers of that building were there to talk about their plans and their vision for that building. It was really exciting to see a variety of people there that are excited about that opportunity here in our city. And the exciting thing about the developers of the Zolo Lofts is that is not the only place they are looking at. So there are some other areas of our city that they have seen the possibility of what they can be, and they are excited about those as well. Also, I just want to say just a huge thanks to our veterans. There were two events that I attended this past month. One was our Veterans Day service, which happens every November 11th at 11 o'clock. It doesn't matter what day it is. It is a wonderful service, and I give thanks to the American Legion and to those people that put forth that service every year. I know that Cindy Pearson, one of our new commissioners, holds a walk, and I know that happened this past November as well, and the money from that will go to support veterans here in our local community. So I give thanks for that, and it will stay here in Piqua, which is wonderful. Also, this past Sunday, I was able to attend on behalf of the city the American Legion Centennial Celebration and offer a proclamation to them. They have been here for 10 years, 100 years, for 100 years this year, and it was a big celebration for them, a wonderful time to talk about their history and just the ways that they have supported veterans here in our community. Also, I spoke last week at the Upper Valley Career Center Government Day along with the mayor of Troy and the mayor of Sydney. We spoke to the students there for about an hour and 15 minutes just about local government and answered their questions. So it was wonderful to have the three of us up there just to share a little bit about our cities and a little bit about what it's like to get into public office and to answer questions for the students. I also just want to mention Brian Hamilton has been at Transform Life for 15 years. I was able to go and offer a proclamation in celebration of that. Brian Hamilton is a very active pastor in our community. He is the volunteer chaplain for our police department, and you will see Brian in a variety of places, and he does a lot for our citizens here in our community. So I just wanted to mention and give thanks for the 15 years that he has been at Transform Life and all he continues to do for our city. Also, we had 2 ribbon cuttings since our last meeting, and Commissioner Grissom and City Manager Gary Huff and Chris Schmeezing were part of those ribbon cuttings. I'm looking around. I don't think I've missed anybody else. But ribbon cutting at Lock Tenders, which has been open, but we had the official ribbon cutting last week. And then Minuteman Press, which is over here on Water Street. We had a ribbon cutting there as well last Thursday through the Chamber of Commerce. So that is all I have this evening. And we are now, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session, please. And this is to consider the purchase or sale of property for public purpose.
So moved.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Grissom,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Okay, we are now adjourned to executive session.
No, that's the best baby back in the back
And
there.
that kid-
I swear to God, that baby didn't cry, and that dad was so patient. I'm serious. Good job, man. I'm serious. Appreciate that.
No, not at all.